Y'all, welcome back to Kentucky Fried Wargaming, where two guys who aren't qualified to talk about anything decide to talk about a game with hard math and chance. I'm Joe.
And I'm John.
And we're at the tail end of a recording session as we try to do faction focuses for every single 10th edition release army. And that means this one might be just a little bit wild, which I feel like we have to warn you of every time. But I feel like it's appropriate for this faction, because we're getting
might be a little chaotic.
Yeah.
A little bit chaotic this, night.
A little stompy. Oh, you have the jokes now. He's been rolling his eyes at me all night for my jokes.
I do. That's my job.
Yeah, we're going to get a little stompy, maybe a little rampagey, maybe have some collateral damage. It's going to be great, because we're going to be talking about the Chaos Knights tonight. And boy howdy, do I think this is cool. Even though they are heretical, and I hate them on principle, they're giant robots, and I like giant robots in all their forms, so I can't help but be just a little bit excited.
I do love giant robots.
It's true. Now you get to have giant robots and Chaos Eldritch Horrors all in one go.
Match made in heaven, like a Reese's peanut butter cup of science fiction.
It's perfection. For us on the show, when we try to do these faction focuses, we want to give you a quick hit on everything that kind of makes a faction tick and why it's appealing to us. And I think fluff for us is just as important as rules. So we like to start it off with just a little bit about what you can expect. And here, I mean, if you just Google the models, you're going to get a lot of the story from just looking at them. They are really, really impeccably designed. So in Warhammer 40k, way back in the day, humanity pushed to the stars in these big exploratory fleets with these large machines that made other machines, and they were told to make communities. So they landed on these various planets that were uninhabited, other than, wildlife and things of that nature, and then they would try to make a go at creating a colony and surviving there, so humanity could expand its reach and horizon into the depths of space. And one of the things that they made to help survive were these large, almost like tractor machines that were, bipedal walkers that were built to fell trees with big chainsaw blades. And over time, as they were getting attacked, the pilots of these, what at the time were like bipedal walkers, started to use them to fight, to defend their settlements. The chainsaw blades became almost like swords, and then they started strapping guns to them. And before you knew it, the people who could pilot these machines started to have some status, some class, and rise in ranks to be a little more valued above the other people around them. And this is where the story kind of diverges a little bit, because you then have the normal Imperial Knights, but some go down a dark path with their giant walker suits. Whether intentionally or unintentionally, knights always bond with their suit. They have to form a sort of neural connection to the knight that they sit in. And the knight itself has an AI that melds with its pilot, and it sort of shapes their pilot a little bit as the pilot imprints upon it, which means it becomes this crazy gestalt hive mind on the best of days. Some of them, though, come into contact with the Chaos Gods, and they are corrupted. Either the pilot is corrupted and then corrupts the suit, or vice versa. And in the end, both are drawn to madness.
And they become like this paired, complete dance of nightmares.
Yeah. I mean, trying to face one is a horror out of your worst subconscious dream. I mean, being like a normal person with a shotgun being charged by a 40-foot tall steel monstrosity is bad enough on any given day. But
yeah.
Now add the fact that these things emanate terror and death and hopelessness and despair at a primal level that corrupts you and weakens your resolve magically as well as just physically. And then once you're a coward, have enough armaments to finish everything you have off. They're nightmarish. They are twisted, mutinous machines piloted by equally twisted men and women. And that's the whole faction. It's all big robots.
That's it.
There's no other units. It's all a bunch of different big robots.
Big evil robots. It's just Decepticons, all right? Like, it's cool.
All the way down. And to that end, they do wield terror as a weapon, quite tangibly. Yes. It's not just a fluff thing. It is now codified in their rules to be harbingers of dread.
Yeah, so their Harbinger of Dread rule, it progressively gets worse as the game goes on. For your opponent, not for you.
You're having a great time.
Yeah, you're just like, you're running around big stompy robots. It's great. First battle round, right? You have an aura where everything within 12 inches of each of the models takes one away whenever they do a battle shock test. And that's going to be very important because battle shock is critical in this army, right?
Yeah.
And then in round 3, it's called Doom and Darkness. Each time this model makes an attack, if the target is battle shocked, add 1 to the wound roll. That's extremely powerful.
Whew, right? That hurts. Yeah. Each
time an attack targets this model, if the attacking model is battle shocked, subtract 1 from their wound roll.
Well, it's their hit roll.
Their hit roll.
Yeah.
My apologies.
You're good.
So they get more defensive if your opponent's battle shocked, and they hit harder if they're battle shocked, right? And you'll see in the index, there's plenty of ways to force battle shock, and on top of that, even more buffs to battle shock.
Yeah.
It's simple, but it's good. You spend 3 turns setting up for all these battle shocks, and then you just have the finishing, like, haymakers.
As everything falls apart. The resolve crumbles. And the thing that helps bring that home is their detachment rule, which is very simple. We got it up on screen. Forged in Terror. This rule says that in the battle shock step of your opponent's command phase, if the enemy unit is within 12 of one of your Chaos Knights, which you're going to have a lot of, and they're beneath their starting strength. Yes, starting strength. God, it's rough. I flubbed it. Oh no. It's late in the night, y'all. I'm sorry. I don't know if we're going to edit out or if y'all are just going to have to watch me stumble through this, even though I studied it before we did this. But they're going to have to take a battle shock test because they're within 12 of your knights. I've read the designer's note, threw me off. But if they're within 12 of your knights and they're below starting strength, they're taking battle shock tests over and over again, all game from round 1. It's one of the things that start triggering those battle shocks so that the previous rule can start kicking in and hurting them so badly. Because if you could get this going and you get to turn 3, you're getting +1 to wound them, they're getting -1 to hit you back, and you're just going to force everything in their army to keep taking battle shocks over and over again.
Like,
and
this army is all about. It's just all about steamrolling and setting up combo into combo into combo into combo. Like go, 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 go.
Yeah, you're sort of harrying them to get them isolated and then trying to, like, push for the kill when their resolve is at its weakest. And to that end, to show exactly what this faction does, we'd like to pick one data sheet per faction, per person, to illustrate why we think that faction's cool and to show some of our points and how they actually play on the tabletop. John, what do you think is representative of the Chaos Knights?
So for me, I love all of the Chaos Knights, but I think my favorite class of them, or like chassis, is the War Dogs.
Yeah, right? The little knights.
I love them because they're like little packs of like vicious robot hounds, and that's crazy, right? These bipedal like monsters that work together. And the leader of those is called the War Dog Stalker, right? Mm-hmm. Granted, he's a standalone model. It's not like a unit of knights. But in the lore, he kind of leads a group of War Dogs. And they're just very good. They move 12 inches. Phenomenal.
Really fast.
Toughness 10. Really, really good. 12 wounds. Tough to deal with. 3-up save. Could be a 2-up save. But 3-up save is still good enough to get you there. It's got a ton of range options for one arm. And the other arm, you take a chain blade or a chain claw, right?
Just mincemeating things. Just turning them to absolute mincemeat.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But you got to it earlier, the harrying thing, right? It's really important that you do that. Kind of isolate one of them, because the Stalker, if he attacks a target that doesn't have any allied units within 6 inches, he gets to add 1 to the wound rolls.
Whew.
That's really good.
That's incredible.
Like, that means early on, he can start just, like, taking out things that need to be taken out. And it means towards the end of the game, he can make sure stuff's done.
Yeah, especially if it's sitting by itself on, like, a far objective, trying to, like, eke out points in the late game. The Stalker could just pick that unit up in a lot of cases, and really throw a monkey wrench in your opponent's plan. And that's not counting any other bonuses that this will be getting from battle shocked units or forcing battle shocks.
Yeah, and like, you'd be surprised where this can be really handy, right? Like, you could take a decent amount of weapons on here. One of them, like, you're probably looking at the big, like, demon breath spear. Like, that's awesome, right?
Yeah.
But like, what about the Havoc multi-launcher that's got indirect fire in 48 inches? Right? People love to keep a small unit on their backfield. Well, now you get to reroll wounds against it. You might just take out enough of that unit to cause it to get battle shocked.
Whew.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's... it's spicy.
Yeah, they just, like, little ways to optimize this, like, little murder machine to do exactly what you need it to when. Like, pull off, like, really cool trick moves. Oh, it's so good. I'm probably going to bring a couple. Like, this would be good.
And I think, like, to really bring home the idea of this, like, Rube Goldberg machine taking off and becoming sort of hard to stop by leaning on the idea of isolation and terror and battle shock is my pick, because I got to go with the big knight that is also a psyker. It's a
wizard robot,
a magic
makes sense.
Robot. I love it. It is the Knight Abominant. It's an incredible model. It's got tusks and a big Volkite cannon and a bunch of like tentacles. Like, it's great. I picture the sound effect from Monsters Inc. of like the tentacle dude walking through the door every time I see this Knight Abominant. And like, he can tentacle slap you, of course. And he also has a Bale Mace, which hits shockingly hard at his extra attacks, giving him 12 attacks. He's got a movement of 10, which can almost keep up with the War Dogs, which is kind of shocking. He's got toughness 12, so he's tougher than they are with the same save characteristic, but 22 wounds. Which means it's going to take a minute to start chipping through him, despite his, like, tentacle noises from Monsters, Inc. But what I think is really cool about this guy is not just that he's a melee powerhouse, although he is, and he's got quite a bit of shooting. But his ability Vortex Terrors is his psychic, well, one of his psychic abilities, that at the start of your shooting phase, you can select an enemy unit within 12, and they have to take a battle shock test. You point, you click, they roll. And, as we mentioned before, if you force battle shock tests, it's good. And it's within 12, so it's going to trigger your other unit. So they're going to have their command phase trigger a battle shock. You're going to get your turn. Shooting phase is about to start. Great. Do me another battle shock real quick. Both of those are going to be made at -1 at minimum. Might be made at more. And then, if it's round 3 and up and they fail either of those 2 battle shocks that you just forced them to take, hey, like, no biggie. I'm just getting +1 to wound on all my shots now, and you're -1 to hit me back. So, it's fine. It's totally cool. And he's an AoE mortal wound generator. And I really want to point this one out, because there's not a lot of this left in the game that I have seen. In previous editions, there were a number of ways to get sort of like a big, bombed out AoE mortal wound generation.
Yeah.
Where you would have like a big circle essentially around your mini and say everything within that's an enemy is going to get hurt real bad with unsavable mortals. For a lot of reasons, this did not feel great, and it seems like they are trying to move away from it as a general rule, but the Knight Abominant's got one, and that's worth a quick shout out, because he's gonna get up in the mix given his job. And being able to force battle shocks and then do D3 mortals in a circle around him, over and over again at the end of his movement phase is very nice. Very, very nice.
Yeah, that's very good.
And Mortal Wounds gets around high armor saves, so it's really good for cracking tough nuts that you might not be able to get through with like smaller war dogs if it has like a 2+ armor save or something like that.
And even gets past invulnerable saves.
It does. I mean, it's feel no pain or take it, which is really, really good. And I don't know if this army has access to a ton of that, so great call out. And I do want to say that a lot of people are going to be really into Chaos Knights, I think. Because, like, they're big, stompy robots. People love big, stompy robots.
Yeah, they're big, stompy, edgy robots. They're fantastic.
We're not unique in this factor. But if you are going to get into Chaos Knights and you do think, like, you're a player who wants to play them, we want to send you away with some practical advice for how to play these things. Because it could be trickier than you think. With big elite armies like this, like, we have talked about it on the show and podcast episodes, but elite armies can be a little rough to learn on. Because you don't have very many models to try to, like, flood the table with. And when that's the case, it can make it a little hard. So my tip is that movement phase for elite armies is unforgiving. Just generally. And when you're playing Chaos Knights, which are, you know, arguably the most elite faction in the game tied with Imperial Knights, you are going to have the least number of models. And
positioning is key.
Yeah, positioning is huge. If you put one of them big models, those like 22 wounds, in the wrong place, and it gets tied up, you're never going to get it out to get to the right flank in time. So you really got to think about your placements and your movements heavily with this faction to try to learn how to play it well. John, what about you?
So I'm going to break the rules on this one, and I'm going to provide 2. I'm giving 2 tips.
It's the last one of the night, so I guess I'll allow you.
Yeah, you can't stop me. I'm just going to do it.
I have no enforcement power here, so I guess so be it.
Yeah, so my first tip, right, is you want to diversify what knights you bring. You don't want to just bring 1 knight, 3 of, done, or 6 of, right? Like, you don't want to just bring 6 stalkers, right? It sounds like a good idea because, that sounds like a cool data sheet, and, like, they can have, like, a melee weapon and a ranged weapon. Don't forget about things like the Carnivore, which is a monster in melee. Yeah, it sure doesn't have a lot of shooting, but it destroys anything it touches in melee. And you can use, like, a stratagem to run through terrain. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So don't forget to take multiple different types of knights, or multiple different types of situations, and then put them in the key spot that you need them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then my second tip that I argue with Joe is more important than positioning.
What? Okay.
Target priority. In the new edition, right,
also matters.
There's going to be a lot less ability to take down knights unless you have dedicated anti-armor. If you're playing knights, that anti-armor stuff is going to be scary because it's going to be able to take you out really well. You need to focus on getting rid of that first. Take out the enemy tanks. Take out the enemy heavy support units. Right, the ones that the big guns, get rid of those because those are the things that are going to kill your knights.
Yeah.
But also, don't forget that melee is a weak point in defense for knights.
Mm-hmm.
They don't get invulnerable saves in melee. So try to kill melee units before they get to you and before they can hurt you.
Yeah, so if a big melee unit of some sort can get into melee with you with like a -3 rend weapon, that's a bad day.
That sucks.
If you got the charge on them, sure, it's worth a gamble. But if you're out of position and they get the drop on you, you might find yourself taking a big hurt before you have the chance to do anything about it.
Or if you run into something that has fights first, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Just shoot it off the table.
You've really got to pick your battles there, which goes into that positioning that you've got to set up to get to those places. Otherwise, you're just going to get bogged down. But that comes with experience in playing elite factions. And if there's things in this faction that you're interested in that we didn't talk about and we missed, I'm sure there's things like that. Please feel free to reach out. We've got the social media down below, and we've also got the comment section. Feel free to post questions or concerns. I almost said post comments, like duh. But feel free to post them down below. We'd love to help people individually if need be. because this is just a cool army, and I want to help people get more of it on the tabletop badly. And if this isn't for you and Chaos Knights aren't your flavor, maybe Imperial Knights? That will be coming soon. We are trying to get it out on the channel. I'm personally an Imperial Knight kind of fellow myself.
You have Imperial Knights.
I do. And I'm kind of excited to play them in a new edition. But we're going to be doing every faction, so please look around. If this isn't for you, hopefully there is something out there in the channel that is for you. We'd certainly appreciate you taking a look. For now, though, it's been all of our opinions, bona fide, and Kentucky Fried. We'll see y'all in the next one.